All right. Thank you again for joining us for another Trish.0 show. This is the show where we interview event professionals and people who are event professional adjacent and find out all about their businesses and ask them all sorts of questions. Joining me today is Sara Alepin. Did I get that? I'm gonna ask her in a minute if I got that right. I'm pretty sure I got that right. But she is actually also being joined by a very special guest. So bonus for us all, it's going to be a dual interview today. Let's go ahead and get Sara on the show. Hey, Sara.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Am I right? Like I don't think I've ever said your last name like out loud. Like I just, like I've always just called you Sarah. So it's like I've never had to do the full intro.
So it's actually Alepin,
Alepin.
um, but it means
Damn it.
has the bread in French.
Okay. All right. No, I'll remember that. That's actually a really great way of remembering that.
But
You
it
know,
would be in French, it would be Alepin.
Alepin.
Um,
I'm going to do that from now
say the
on.
N the same
It's Sarah
way.
Alepin. I'm 100% going to be doing that. Yeah, and so for those of you like they're like, where's Trish looking? I'm just making sure that we're live on, and that we haven't lost the broadcast. But Sarah, you have your hands in so many things. Go ahead and let people know all the wonderful things and all your wonderful projects that you're doing right now.
So first of all, I have my hands on my little stinker French bulldog bud,
Love it.
Pluto, um, who is on Instagram because I am that person. That's my
Love
little
it.
fun social media break for during the day. He does snort, so you may hear him making oinky sounds because I am that person.
Right.
And so I am the CEO of District Bliss, which is a networking organization that offers business support workshops and community building activities. And I am also the CEO of Photos from Harty, which is wedding event and lifestyle photography. And I am a podcast co-host for The Wedding Dish.
Busy lady. Did I tell you, or did I tell you she's a busy lady? And actually, so Sarah and I have met through District Bliss. It was actually through one of the events. I think was it Galentine's Day, where
Yeah,
we did with the molecular cocktails. I had
yeah.
Calson on the show like a couple weeks back,
Oh my God, I
talking
love
about
her.
that. Yeah, she
So
is
lovely.
amazing. And what I really enjoyed about your particular group was that you did have this very sort of like nice eclectic sort of blend of vendors. In talk us through, you had your own particular backstory about like why you developed this District Bliss. We'll talk about that first. Because your original sort of starting point was from the photography, was from having a photography business, and then that morphed into District Bliss, which morphed into the Wedding Dish podcast. So chronologically, walk us through it.
So I started Photos from the Hardy in 2005 while I was teaching darkroom photography at a high school, actually kind of near where you live, Trish. Um,
Okay.
and I was just kind of doing it like as a side hustle. It was
Yeah.
fun. I could make money over the summer and support my traveling. So then in 2011, I was attacked by a student in the hallway and couldn't go back to teaching, essentially. And so I took off 2012. And in 2013, I brought on the support I needed in order to physically be able to handle running a photography business because I couldn't photograph weddings by myself at that point. So um, then I started going to networking events because I needed to subcontract for, I call them additional photographers. I don't call them second shooters. I think it's unfair to kind of I think saying second shooter makes it sound like they're less than me, but
Right.
they're also professionals in the industry and they're talented and they're brilliant. And I don't like to call them, something that's like a sub tier to me. So I started going to all these networking events because I needed a roster. of people
Yeah.
that might be available. There are weddings like 10-10-20-20 is like the most popular wedding date of the year. So you to find someone who's going to be available on that date is very challenging. So you need
Right.
like a roster of people that you can bring in to support you. So I started going to networking events, and I experienced what many people have experienced in DC, which is, oh, you're a photographer? I'm a photographer. And then
Yeah.
turned around and iced me out
Sure.
of the circle. I don't need to know you, kind of thing. Like, you're my
Right.
competitor. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, then I guess I can't refer business to you because I can't take every wedding personally anyway. But I also then can't have you come on as working with us ever and like subcontracting to you.
Yeah.
So it was really disappointing, and it was disheartening, and it made the whole experience like anxiety provoking because I felt like I was just going to be standing by myself all the time. And especially because I was so like I it was difficult to stand for long periods, so it made it like additionally anxiety provoking. So I decided to break the system and started throwing District Bliss networking events that brought people in a collaborative way, as opposed to feeling like there's that competition.
Right.
And it was wildly successful from the start. And we've changed so much since we started. I think I told you this, but I might not have. We initially were just doing it for free. Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone on silent. Rookie mistake there.
That's, that's
Um,
okay. That's
so,
all right.
for the first couple events, we weren't charging, but what would happen is that we were getting people who would do weird things. There's a category of people who will go to events that are free that will not pay for events. And those people sometimes include people who wear underwear on the outside of their clothing because you're not allowed to bring products to a networking event. So that's how the workaround went for that person. And wearing underwear on the outside of the clothing isn't really the vibe I was looking for.
I'm sensing a very, very interesting story behind that. That's incredibly specific. That is a damn specific thing.
I'm really blushing too. I don't know if you can see.
No, no, no. Well, because on my computer monitor, it's like everything's tiny little boxes in front of me.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see your face, but I can't see like 100% of what's happening. But I can feel the blush through it because it would. That's just weird.
It was
Like
so
oh,
uncomfortable. And if it was
yeah.
your first time going to one of our events, the way that appears to you as another professional feels weird. So it kind of was just overall like not a great look for District Bliss, not a great look for that
Sure.
lady. Um,
Oh, and it was a lady. See, I was envisioning something where it was like a guy. I don't know, maybe that's just blatantly sexist of me, and I apologize to all the men out there. I just envision that if somebody's going to wear underwear outside of their clothing and walk around in public, um, I don't know. I envision a man.
I think probably because you can
Interesting.
envision it fitting better on the outside of the clothing if it's a man because of the nature of the way that their underwear is versus women. Like ours is
Got
tight.
it.
So
Yep.
like it was like basically like a billowy blouse with like underwear on the outside of it and
That's
jeans.
so weird. That's
It was
very
really
weird.
uncomfortable. So we started
That's weird.
charging for our events, and that no longer happened. Pro tip for anyone out there, when you don't charge, you can't
You're just
control what
gonna,
happens the
yeah,
same
you're just gonna
way.
get like a mess, a
Yeah.
hot damn mess walking through the door.
Oh my God. And
That's
I didn't
really, really
notice right away
hilarious.
because it was so packed. Oh,
Okay, gotcha.
it was embarrassing. When I did, I was like, is that person wearing underwear? It was
Right. What was her business? Like, what was her line of, like, what did
shapewear,
she do?
shapewear.
Oh, oh. Okay, so I guess that in her mind, that made sense, right? Like she's in shapewear and she was gonna wear it on the outside of her I don't know. That still doesn't make a damn bit of sense. It
Yeah,
really doesn't.
she
It
wanted
still
to set
doesn't
up,
make a damn bit of sense.
yeah, she wanted to set up a booth, and we were like, no. So then she found a
That
workaround.
that's the missing part of that component. That is just wow. Wow. So I'm glad you're charging.
Yeah.
Because well, I mean, and really, it is a very noble thing to, if you're, for those of you who are kind of watching and you know a little bit of the background of District Bliss and you kind of maybe want to do something a little bit similar, that it's a lot of time on your part. The promotion, the website, the
Oh yeah.
marketing, the email list, maintenance. So even if you're just charging a nominal fee, which you do, I don't find your events to be, pricey generally speaking at all. It at least offsets some of that cost. It at least compensates you in
Yeah.
some way for that time.
Yeah.
That you're even if it is, even if it is only a passion project, at least it's then not costing you money.
Yeah. The
Um,
first year I
yeah,
sunk like $3,400 into
yeah,
District Bliss, because we weren't charging. And we were spending money on gifts and that kind of thing.
sure.
I love to give gifts. You are
Yes,
wearing,
if you've ever seen these earrings on me, then you are now looking at the person responsible for them. I do love, a good Kendra Scott piece, and and these are like my go-to. They go with everything.
I love that. I mean, it
Yeah,
just makes me so happy. Giving
yeah,
gifts is like one of my very favorite things because you get to really show like that, like you get to really like highlight the things you love about people and
right,
like show them that you like love that about them.
right.
And I love that you just have this crazy cool sense of style.
Thank
Um,
you,
you're
thank you.
always wearing like gorgeous like colors. You know your colors really well. You look
Thank
really
you.
good in jewel tones, and you know how to kind of balance it all together. Like you know how to balance a bold lip, and like it's awesome.
I really appreciate that because believe me, that was a many teen years spent in experimental mode. So this was a long time of a long process. I was certainly not born, with this sort of like a ability to throw it together. And I have my days, and certainly if you go through my interviews, you'll see you're like, maybe not on that day, Trish. Maybe not, just maybe not that Tuesday. It's all good. No, and so thank you for that. Yeah, but I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to like your nature is that you just have this very innate sort of like giving way about you, stemming from the grace and that you've handled the attack, not that we have to sort of like deep dive into it, but you
You're frozen for me.
like some like random bike accident or you stepped in a pothole or something sort of like happened like on your way to the grocery store. This happened doing something that you love, I've just felt like you've handled that with just a remarkable sense of grace and peace, which is an important lesson I think for everyone, and that has led to your other projects, because District Bliss has now led into, the Wedding Dish podcast, which is also very successful, which is also a whole lot of fun. I know you and I have talked about like your progression to the Wedding Dish, but why don't you let everybody know like how that came about?
So it was really interesting the way that came about. So Steph Norton is my co-host. She still considers herself a producer, but she really is a co-host at this point. Um,
Love it, love it.
I just let her keep that title as she wants it. She doesn't want to admit she's out in front as much as she is, but she is.
Gotcha.
I love it. She's so funny. She likes to think of herself as behind the scenes. But she started coming to District Bliss events in 2017, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, wow.
So it's been a while, and she was consistently attending every event. She was volunteering to work with this florist at the time while she was managing social media and doing a few other entrepreneurial projects. And she was just like very happy in the community. She had moved here from LA, and she really wasn't like that into the whole like DC vibe of here's all the things about me, and whatever. She didn't like the political scene. So she really like found her people in the District Bliss community. And so then when she launched this other project, she came to me because she wanted to talk about, you know, launching it in the wedding space. And then she out of nowhere blurted out, I really want to launch a podcast. And I was like, oh, me too.
All right.
And so then she like reached out to all of she did all the, she reached out to different producers, and she got everything set up, and she found a home for us on Full Service Radio, which is Out of the Line Hotel in Adams Morgan. We love them. They are fantastic community run organizations. So it's right in line with my values. And it's fun. We interview real live engaged as opposed to real dead. Like,
right.
Real life.
Past life. You know, reincarnated. That's all right. It's all good. It's all good. Clouseau's on your lap. You know, it's all good. It's all good.
I just say weird things, and I'm cool with it. So
you have to be. You have to be.
Gotta laugh. So we interview engaged or married couples, including we interviewed my parents who've been married for 44 years. So we have like a whole bunch of variety in that front. And then we also interview entrepreneurs in the wedding space and talk about their weddings, if they've gotten married, and their experiences. So it has a little bit of that business building aspect to it, but also like wedding planning and wedding advice and that kind of thing. And we also answer listeners' questions too, which is fun, and always some of them really put you on the spot. So it's exciting, and it keeps being exciting over and over again.
And so, and it's difficult, right? It's like, because like you're trying to like stay focused, you know, kind of like I am here, I'm trying to stay focused, but then, you know, I'll see sort of like comments come in, and then I'll be like, okay, I don't know, like, you know, sometimes the comment, if I'm not careful, can pull away from, you know, what we're trying to get to in the show. And I'm sure you've experienced that as well, where people get so excited and they want to, you know, they're talking to you and it's a live show and they're like, yay, I'm like, it's like a radio program, and you're like, but wait, not quite, you know, there is a focus.
Yeah. And we are lucky because we're not on video when we're podcasting in the studio, but Clue comes with us. So, and he happens to, in my unbiased professional opinion, be completely adorable. And he's the most social pup. Like, he just wants to be involved in everything. So if people like come up and take pictures, because we're in this 360 glass studio. So if you walk into the lobby at the line, we're sitting right there, and the dog is right there. And so he's on there all the time. You can hear him doing his like sound. He makes
I think that
sounds.
Right. Yeah. Like I think we can probably, you know, hear him through the mic. And it was hilarious because you know, when you first came on and, you know, we were doing like a whole green room thing, like, oh, I didn't realize he was going to join us. And you're like, I didn't realize he was going to join us either. And that's the way he rolls. So
yes, one of his favorite things to do, and I know this is totally an aside, and we can get back on track right after I tell you, because you want to know this.
It's all good.
So what he'll do is he'll be just off camera, because you've seen him a couple times get just off camera.
Yep.
And then he will fart loudly.
Oh, wow.
And then he will look up like this at me as if I had done it, and then go back away. So he like blames me for his fart. on video calls. And it's so like human response. It's so embarrassing.
He is such a character. He is such a, and why shouldn't he, right? He's like, meh. He's like, I think this call was getting a little bit too serious. Pert. And then off he goes.
It's so funny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I love about him is like how people respond to him. Because he's, he's a bulldog, a French bulldog. And so people like, do you find that people can sometimes, just like not like him because of the breed? Is he polarizing, or are people universally in love with your dog?
There are a few people who just don't really like dogs, and
Okay.
in that case, they do not like Clue.
Gotcha.
There are some dogs that do not understand the loudness of the squish face. So there's that aspect too. But other than that, people are pretty much universally in love with my dog. He's just so sweet too. Like he loves.
Yes, he's a good boy.
He just like wants to be everybody's friend. He just he's so quirky. Like he started doing this thing last year where he will lay down like a lion on the hunt when a dog is coming toward him and act like he's being really well behaved, and then he'll like pounce with excitement when the dog gets
wow.
It's so weird and funny, but it's like he's just always doing weird, funny things.
Well, yeah, at least you have like a little like walking comedian, like a little walking comedy show, just like hanging around the house. But speaking of like hanging around the house, aside from like all these other things, what I've always what I've always enjoyed about District Bliss in terms of content, and in terms of just your general direction, and I guess this is kind of where we were going with, kind of explaining your businesses and the progression of everything, is that you've been doing virtual events since before all the cool kids were. So you were the original cool kid.
Yeah,
on that you were doing virtual networking, virtual seminars, like I know how that sort of originated, but you've been cranking out that content lately.
Yeah,
talk about that lately. Yeah.
So initially, you're very hot, bud. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Couldn't take it anymore.
That's all right.
So we need a break from him. What we started doing was for members, we were doing, because we offer membership, and we were doing like masterminds, virtual co-working, and virtual networking socials, and then also doing online workshops that were open to both the public and members. But we were charging a nominal fee because a lot of work goes into that stuff.
Sure.
So, we kind of had to pivot a little bit because right now, a lot of people are having trouble staying afloat, and we want to help people stay afloat. So we started doing this in 2019 because we noticed that people like didn't want to leave the house. Like they were not feeling networking overall. And everyone got a little bit fed up with like the weather that happened in 2018 because we had all that rain. It was just really, it was a lot. And we all kind of got burnt out in 2019 with dealing with all of that stuff. Well, then here comes 2020 when we can't leave the house. So now we all owe 2019 an apology for the bad stuff we said behind its back.
Right. 2020 just came up and bitch slapped us all.
I know. I didn't know if I could say shit because I was going to say all the shit we said behind.
It's all good. This is a live YouTube stream. Adults should be watching this. If your kids are watching this, I sincerely apologize. They shouldn't be.
I mean, if they say it on The Simpsons, I think it's okay to say on the podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I
my
think so.
rule.
Exactly.
Um, so we now are offering all of our workshops and virtual co-working, most of our masterminds, and virtual networking socials, which are all really organized and super fun. They're all
Yeah.
really approachable, same kind of thing. Trish, I think you've attended some of them, but
Yeah.
um, and what we do is like we introduce, it's cool because I get to know everybody, so I get to like say, oh, this is the amazing thing about this person, and like you should connect with them, and oh, I meant to connect you with this person, send me an email to remind me. As you know, I'm not the best at my email.
Right.
I can't be good at everything. I just can't.
No, and that's fine. If that's what you're if that's where you lack, then so be it. So be it. It's fine. It's fine.
I accept myself for who I
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
am. So now we're doing all kinds of things to help businesses come out on the other side of this even stronger. And that's not to say that I'm not selling, because I am. But hopefully I'm selling into either membership, because you get more benefits and you get continuing benefits. But we also have the online academy that you get access to if you're a member. But you can also, so if you miss the live workshop, you get access to it in the online academy. And then you get the slide deck, the Q&A audio, and anything that is supplemental materials from the workshop. So, just to be clear, I don't want to sound like we're just giving everything away for free, because that, would be very noble. But
Right.
realistically, I think it's important to continue to sell during this time as entrepreneurs, and remember that it's okay to sell, because we want to be able to survive this, right? Like we got
Right.
to come out of this somewhere. And, the people are still making money in different ways. And I'm really excited to see the people who have always considered paychecks to be like steady and safe, that might come out of this as entrepreneurs afterward. And those people might still be getting paychecks, but might be taking workshops to kind of explore the entrepreneurial world. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind too, for all of you entrepreneurs out there. Don't stop selling just because you think people don't have money. You can definitely offer options, payment plans, and things, but don't let yourself suffer just because you're assuming that people aren't going to be willing to pay for things.
Yeah, or at the very least continue with marketing efforts, or pivoting efforts, or whatever it is like that next business goal is for you.
Yeah.
Because certainly, like you said, this is, this is an amazing time to reach out to, people who, even if you're not in the events industry, reach out to people, and network, and, you'll probably have more conversations at this point in time than you ever would have.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you have probably had like 100, like vid calls that you're like, I am so over it at this point in time.
There was a week where I
Yeah,
was like, I'm not getting on video anymore. I had
yeah,
serious video fatigue. And I also work on a monitor. So, and I have my ergonomic keyboard because,
right.
you know, that's just the way that I am. But the, like, the video fatigue was really serious one week. And I have stopped curling my hair and things for video, because I just, I just, no more heat products on my hair for the time being, unless I'm doing it
Okay.
for myself. But I'm just not worried about what my hair, if my hair is looking attractive to other people other than my husband, because I do still care about his opinion.
Yeah, just a little bit though. Just it's all right. Just keep it. Just shower, keep it fresh.
Yeah. I mean, it
Keep the
doesn't
love
look
alive.
bad. It's just that it doesn't look like what I would
Fabulous.
normally have done, because I was putting on like full makeup for
There you go.
videos and stuff. And that gets exhausting, especially because I normally don't wear like full. This is what I look like every day. Like,
Yeah,
I wear like minimal makeup. I do my brows, I do my cheeks, and I maybe throw on mascara. But
and that's it.
um, other than that, I've also been doing a ton of facial masks, like self-care facial masks, not
Oh,
like,
good.
you know, so that's been like one thing that I started doing that I like never did before. So
Well, I think it's like I think you touched on a really interesting point for everyone that whether it's self-care or whether you're taking on new courses or taking on new product offerings, like this is the time to do it. This is the time to get experimental
yeah,
with what you're doing in life.
this is
Your whole routine is messed up, so you might as well do try it all.
Yeah, it's
You know,
so like I know that I'm a silver linings person. You know that about me. So I'm always going to find like
yeah,
the good things that I
yeah,
can list, but I can list them off like that about this because we've been gifted a pause where we get to try new things and
yeah,
actually test them, like market test them as
right,
we go and get feedback. People are willing to give you feedback right now, which is a really cool thing. And you're getting so many more eyes on everything. It's a really cool time to experiment and figure out what works. Like you don't have your commute now. So
right.
you have an additional 2 hours in your life every day, Trish. Like that is
Right.
crazy. I mean, I didn't have a commute because I've been practicing social distancing since 2012. But
Right. This is all like, that's what I love about this. I've been talking to certain people, like yourself and like other people who are just, maybe not, you work virtually, but I have other friends who are just naturally sort of introverted in their general lives, and I'm like, are you all like in heaven at this point in time? This is no interruption to your regular life whatsoever. You're just smooth sailing, full steam ahead.
yeah, and it really, I mean, not to say that there haven't been any changes. This is my
Sure.
new office space because my
Right.
husband rolls so loud on that chair that we had to actually switch offices because this is upstairs and my office was in the basement. But he was so loud, I was like, oh my God, I've got to move you down. I can't do any video calls. I could hear him rolling over to the printer and then rolling back. He picked up the carpet. He refused to use the
And it sounds like a subway station above you,
yeah,
like you're underground, like vroom, vroom. I'm like, where are you?
it was so funny, like the things that we've gotten to learn about
That
each
is
other.
funny.
But so we did
I
make
bet.
that change. So my commute is now upstairs instead of downstairs. But so funny, like thinking about the weird
That's
things
right.
that you've had to change in your homes. But he is an introverted human, so he's like not bothered by this. He's doing all these
Okay.
home projects and things. Um,
Okay.
which is cool. But I am an ENFP. I am like highly extroverted. So I'm just
Gotcha.
basically constantly on video calls and on the phone. It's just constant. My phone schedule is so crazy that like we had to push this call out or this podcast out 2 weeks when you reached out to me.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. You were just like, okay, well, I can do it this this time or that time, and I'll be like sandwiched between this time, and I was like, girl, okay,
And then I was like, otherwise, can we
it's
do
fun.
next week?
Yeah, I know. Well, what was funny about that whole sort of like scheduling you in was, I knew I had wanted to reach out to you as a guest, and of course, like when I sort of formulated this, um, as a twist to the whole podcast thing that I was trying to do anyway, I did have my sort of like core, I would say top 25, right? They would be 25 people, and I'm like, yeah, it'd be fantastic, and I'll have this person on and that person on. But what has surprised me, and maybe you can kind of talk to that a little bit because you do have like virtual workshops and virtual guests, and you do a lot of these things as part of your regular business model. Was the sometimes the pushback that I got from certain entrepreneurs that they were like, oh, I don't really know what I'm going to say. I'm not really comfortable in front of a camera. There was a lot of hesitation and apprehension around that. So what has your experience been in terms of trying to flesh out this content? Because I'm sure, kind of extending that a little bit further, that if somebody's watching this and is thinking about putting on virtual events, this is something you have to consider,
Yeah,
that you will get the pushback from from people.
Yeah. I mean,
For
one
content.
thing, I think something that is always difficult to deal with is managing objections from other people.
Yeah.
And we all have our very strong opinions about everything.
Sure.
And then things we don't care about at all. There's some of everybody's got their different stuff. Managing objections is something that I'm actually very good at.
Yeah.
I just, I'm very tolerant of other people's quirkiness. I'm super quirky, and I have to be tolerant of my quirkiness. So I'm also tolerant of everybody else's. But as far as being on video, we've only had one person who did not want to be on video. And I think that that's because almost everyone who has led a workshop with us, they've come to me and asked me if they could lead a workshop. And they either have done that because they've attended them, they know about them, so they have it already in the back of their mind what it's going to be. And generally, if you're an entrepreneur, you aren't necessarily comfortable standing up in front of a room, but you tend to be a little bit more comfortable if you have that entrepreneurial personality. It's just kind of, we're used to sort of standing up for ourselves and what we're doing, and standing.
When you're a one-person team, your branding, your marketing, your admin, your operations, your accounting, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And luckily I have a team now, because I have Erin, who is my business. She's my operations manager, Mabel EQ. She's also an accessibility expert, and I love her. If you are looking for any sort of VA or anything, you should definitely check her out. But also, everyone should learn about this accessibility stuff while you have the time right now. She actually has a free workshop. We have one on inclusivity in languaging and accessibility that's free in our online academy, because we just want to help raise awareness about that. So everyone should go take that. It's called accessibility and inclusivity, I think, or it's the opposite. So,
well, you have that listed through District Bliss, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
so it's all there. Yeah.
So if you go to districtbliss.com, you'll see a little thing at the top that says Online Academy in our menu. Or you can just go directly to it. It's districtbliss.teachable.com, because we use the Teachable platform. But so yeah, it's great. Like, you just sign up for the course and you get like the slide deck and everything. It's awesome. And she's deaf, but she can speak, so people don't really realize she's deaf. And there's a whole thing with it right now, because she is used to seeing facial expressions to read, to understand what you're saying. So if she can't see your face, then she's really struggling. Like, even with her husband, when they go out to go grocery shopping, she drives and he goes in. And when they've been in the car afterward, she's been like really struggling with it. So anyway, half of everything I say is an aside.
But it's all part of the greater whole. That's that's the whole idea of it. Is that one thing kind of leads into another, and definitely if you've never met Erin, she wonderful person, and her content is really approachable. She speaks on accessibility, but from an accessible way, if that kind of makes sense. Like it's not a scary topic. She doesn't kind of come, she makes it very easy for someone to adopt accessibility, within your own business model, and in a way that that it makes it very apparent that it doesn't have to be costly, it doesn't have to be time consuming, it can be very seamless.
Accessibility can be accessible,
right?
And she also says, like, you don't have to be an expert, and it's okay if you make mistakes, and it's okay if you have to ask questions. It's better to ask. She has a disease or a syndrome that she is losing her peripheral vision as well. So if I need to get her attention, she doesn't seem like the kind of person who would want to be like touched in general, but if I need to get her attention, she's not looking at me, she can't hear me, then I have to like touch her elbow or something, or I have to go around to the front of her. But I'm always worried that I'm going to like make her jump out of her skin when I do that, because I'm like popping up out of nowhere. And so I have to ask her all the time, like, was that rude that I just did that? You know, I didn't mean to interrupt if you're having a conversation, but I like really needed something at one of our events. Then I'm like, was that rude? I hope that that wasn't, and, you know, I have to ask all the time. Like, her message is that you don't have to be perfect at it. Making the effort to try really goes a long way. And especially right now when people are, I mean, I cannot even imagine it's hard for me to even communicate with people that are wearing masks, because I read so much of what you're saying to me through your face in general. I don't know if you found that. And of course, I'm only really walking the dog. I'm not doing any of the
like the daily things. You know, for me personally, it's been like, I'm fine, you know, in terms of, you know, reading body language and reading people, you know, beyond, you know, the mask. But I have always had a very, you know, I have a lower register voice, and I speak at a softer tone, or a quieter tone. And you know, and you know, there's a lot of sort of backstory about that. I just find it exhausting to speak loudly. You know, I can do it, you know, and definitely, you know, and that's what it is. It's become like this exhausting process where I, like, every time I'm out, I have to project my voice, and I have to, you know, speak loudly, because I know that, you know, I have a lower tone and that people can't hear me. And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, can I just write it on a piece of paper? I actually resorted to that. I actually, at one point in time, resorted to like writing things that I needed on a piece of paper before going into like just a quick shop, or, you know, or something where I knew I was going to have to interact with people for that specific purpose. Cause I'm like, I'm just so exhausted just here. I am a masked person. I've handed you a note. That is my life right now.
My mask is an avocado mask. Like, it has avocados on it. It actually, I have, not to leave the frame or anything, but it looks kind of like this, but it's made into a mask. And
cute.
It's from the Neighbor Goods. I love them. So I feel like I'm running around like an avocado bandit when I walk the dog. I keep calling myself.
Yeah. I don't know. We could get into like the whole mask situation. You know, all day. You know,
it's so funny. Like, but I'm making the best of it again. Like,
yeah. I mean, you just have to do what you have to do, you know, ultimately. But you know what, you mentioned, you know, one thing that I haven't attended is the virtual co-working, and I wanted to ask you about that real quick. Like, walk us through, you know, like, we know about like virtual networking and how that might work. Like, obviously we've all become sort of like Zoom experts. But what is it, the virtual co-working, and how does that work out?
So all of those things we do way differently than like what I've attended for other people, because there's a need for a specific, like, you need the organization, and it comes from the top. To be like totally frank, if it's not organized, it can get really distracting.
Okay.
It becomes like a conversation like this, and other people are in the space. And that's just not helpful. Like, that's not co-working. I'm not getting anything done right now other than having a great time and like sharing content, you know, and getting to spend some virtual time with you. Like, I'm not getting my to-do list done.
Right.
Like that, it's just, you know, but co-working should get your to-do list done. So what we do is we go through and we introduce ourselves. We spend like 1 minute on each person. They get to say their name, their business, because, you know, you kind of want to know what people are doing, because you might want to connect with them later. So it's almost like a little bit of networking, but fast. You know, we don't want to spend an hour talking about all the things that I'm doing, because we're doing so much stuff. But so then we say what's awesome about your business, like what makes you different, and the goals of what you want to get done during co-working. So then I set a 30-minute timer. Everybody goes on mute. If anybody wants to have a conversation, I put them into breakout rooms, because the space doesn't need that. You know, we don't need to have a bunch of audio or you're just not going to get anything done. So although some people want to collaborate, and then they are getting something done in that situation. So I'm happy to put them in breakout rooms, but we keep that space like kind of quiet. And then every 30 minutes I check in and I let everybody know what I've done, if I've accomplished my goals or if I got distracted. And then everybody else chimes in and says like, oh, I got this done. I got 3 months of the books done for my accountant. So, you know, whatever, like, I think I can get now what I learned in this is that I can, if I spend 30 minutes doing this quarterly, that I can just get it all done. And I don't have to spend 5 hours doing it at the end of the year, trying to remember what I purchased on like Amazon or something,
Right.
because that's in different categories and whatever. So, and that's another thing I ask at the end, you know, what did you learn from this experience? And they say, you know, being held accountable for actually sitting at my computer and getting it done, or something like I learned that I only need to spend 30 minutes on this to get it done. And it's like such a time saver in the long run. So it's cool, but we usually do an hour and a half. I don't get as much done because I'm setting timers constantly and like monitoring for breakout rooms.
Sure.
But it's, you know, I think for me, it's worth it because we can collaborate. We can feel like we're together, but we are actually like co-work. It's like being in a co-working space.
That's really, really
Getting
cool.
done. Thanks.
Yeah. You're, you know, you're always like, you always just seem to be like right ahead of the, you know, the curve on everything that you're doing. So that, you know, all these things sort of like really, really fascinate me, you know, about like all your projects and stuff like that. But,
Thanks.
you know, but definitely, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so kind of like, you know, we're kind of rounding out, you know, approaching that sort of like 1 hour mark. I did want to kind of touch on, you know, since we're talking about that, so you know that you're, you know, you always seem to be sort of like one step ahead, and we are talking about virtual events. Like, where do you see the, you know, specifically like weddings? Like, we all know corporate is going to just push off until, until maybe next year. So we know they're going to wait. They can wait. They can afford to wait. But
Yeah.
weddings that really, you know, these are time sensitive events. You know, like, what are you feeling about like how that's going to look like in the future?
So if we can sit tight, it's going to be a lot different than if we start to open back up. Obviously, we're all taking a financial hit from this, but the idea that if we open back up, I'm on the CDC's side,
Right.
because I think um, this is something. I mean, this is like, if this doesn't go away, it could morph. It could, like, I don't want to be doing this forever. So I would
Right.
rather just do it now and get through it. Like, I don't want to put it off. So if we can stay in and not throw birthday parties where 17 people or 29 people then broke out with the coronavirus like the next day, if we can sit through this and wait, I think weddings will recover. I think they'll recover pretty quickly because social events and celebration is what we are all missing.
Right.
Corporate always recovers more slowly. Like when you look at the 2007, 2008, people want to celebrate. So that is always social is going to recover more quickly. Culture is going to recover more quickly because that's what we miss when we're in these kind of situations. You know, like in 2007 and 2008, people didn't spend the same amount on their weddings, but you know, they still got married and we still got through that. And you know, I had more weddings then than I had in 2019. I think actually 2019, a lot of people waited to. Did you find that too? People waited to get married.
It was a funny sort of year for me because kind of I was also in like 2019 was my fifth year in business, so that was also sort of like a ramp up, and so I had sort of like an influx of business because of a lot of the marketing and a lot of the networking that I had been doing up until that point. So for me it was great. But yeah, but it was also, you're right. It was also a little bit funny. I tend to find that, I have found that in the last solid 3 years, it's been a very funny sort of wedding market.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it's
just,
odd.
so I think personally my theory is that people wanted that 2020 number.
Yeah,
So I think people pushed off their weddings, and we had a lot more events than we had weddings, which was a really interesting thing because that's not
right.
generally where Photos with Harty is. Um, and I think a lot of people experience that based on the fact that people did not want to leave their house and come out to like networking events and stuff and like go to workshops and even if it's cocktail making workshops, because that was like,
Right.
how cool was that workshop? And we probably only had like 7 or 8 people there, which is also
That
nice.
was fabulous.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that
great.
was a really great workshop. If you haven't caught my interview with Kelson Hoyle, she's the owner of Molecular Food and Cocktails. That's who we're talking about. She led. That's actually, so that's where I met you. That's where I met Kelson. Yeah, it was fantastic, and we were all playing with the chemicals and making ice cream, and
Yeah,
it was great.
it
It
was
was
so
great.
cool. I did not expect it to be so fun for me because
Yeah.
usually I'm sort of behind the scenes, like running things. But she was like, Sarah, get in here. You're doing this. And it was really cool. She does events and things. You should totally bring her in. And we got a
Yeah.
comment that was, the same thing happened in 2010. And I noticed that in 2010 as well. I'm sure it happened in 2000, but I was in high school. So, I did not know that it was going on. Um, I mean, I was really proud to graduate high school in the first year of, so I'm sure people felt the same way about their weddings because I graduated in '01.
There
Uh,
you go.
yeah, so I'm sure people felt the same way about getting married in 2000. But, now the really unfortunate thing is that it's going to be absolutely nuts in 2021. We're going to see people getting married on Mondays, on Thursdays.
Yep.
It's going to be really busy. And I think there are some people, so some of my clients have expressed anxiety about their weddings being postponed because they feel like it's actually it's a representation of them as a couple, and that's a really hard thing to sit in. I feel absolutely horrible for the couples that are going through this because you've been envisioning for so long this one date. You've been looking at it forever. Like you're writing it on contracts. You're putting it on invitations, and now you don't know if you can even send out a save the date, and that's hard. And so some of my couples have expressed, that they're going to just elope in their backyard, have their
Yep.
sister marry them because if they're like not combining households, they feel pretty good about that.
Right.
And then they are having a party in August. So it's like their reception will be essentially a party. And sorry, I don't mean to like fall off the chair or anything.
Sorry.
Um,
I thought that was Clue on the back of you, laying like, "Woman, let me get back into that interview."
yeah, so this is his kitchen chair I referenced that he
Oh,
sits
that's
in, the
right.
fabric kitchen chair. Um,
That's so funny.
and I have my foot on it. He's not, he's laying in the hallway because I
Okay, good,
picked him out of my lap.
good.
Such a little stinker. But yeah, so I think I imagine that we will be super, super busy in there will not be an off season in 2021. I don't think we can have
Right.
an off season. But I am a little bit worried. I hate even admitting this, but I am a little bit worried about fall. And whether or not like we'll be able to have the weddings in the way that the couples wanted to have them. Like I have a couple who wants to get married on Halloween, because it's a really special holiday for them. It's like their favorite holiday,
Oh,
and they want to incorporate it. And
yeah.
it's Saturday this year, so it changes things if it's a Sunday. And I mean, I'm sure they would be fine. Like I said, we're all kinds of days of the week where people are getting married. So, which is actually good for some cultures because they're not supposed to get married on Saturdays. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you there. I think it's going to be a really, it's going to be a lot of break with tradition,
yeah,
where people are just going to have to be, far more comfortable. Like one of my larger wedding clients, we canceled they were supposed to get married at the end of June. And what we're talking about is doing the civil ceremony now, so they don't have to wait for that, but then doing the larger ceremony next spring, the air sort of clears, for
yeah.
them, and they can do that. But
And
yeah,
I think that you can still do that in a special way.
yeah,
So I talked to some of my couples about this, and they were really worried about like not getting married now, but then having it actually still feel special for their guests. Like, why would their guests even come, kind of thing? Especially because if you've gotten laid off right now, then you may not be able to afford to take time off work and stuff. So like
right.
that whole thing gets mixed in there. But the thing with like you can still do something special. So even if you're technically married, like you can still have, where you stand up together and there is something special that occurs. It may not, you don't
Right.
necessarily need to do vows. You may want to stand up together and and toast all of your guests. Or, you can still do your vows even if you're married. Like that's totally fine. I wasn't into writing my own vows personally. I didn't want to stand up and talk about my relationship with Philippe in front of the 17 people that attended our wedding.
Right, right, right.
It's not like we had a big wedding, but I just didn't want to stand up in front of them and talk about that. It's not us. He's extremely introverted. He would have been horrified
Right.
to write his own vows, but you can still, like, if you write your own vows, like, you can stand up and say them. You don't even have to have somebody else there. But we had my brother marry us, and he stood up and spoke about our relationship as we stood there. And I think,
That's cute. That's very
yeah,
cute. Yeah, I love
that
it.
would have been applicable whether we were married that day or we were married before that. So I think it's important to, even though your wedding may not look the way that you wanted it to look, you still will be able to get married, and you can still have a celebration that's really personal to you. Even if you don't want to stand up there and talk about, do your own vows or whatever, or stage a ceremony, there are other options that can make it just as special.
Yeah, I think you're right there. The way that I kind of talked it through with the couple of my couples that are coming up is, I had to remind them that there's a separation of the ceremonial and the legal when it comes to wedding ceremonies.
Yeah.
That if what you want is to have this legally binding contract between you, that you can go ahead and do in a very lovely, simple sort of courthouse type of ceremony, and have that. But what happens out there in the field, that's really the ceremonial aspect of it. And really when you're kind of thinking about this in grander terms, when you're talking to somebody who's maybe getting married in the Caribbean, or getting married in Tahiti, or getting married in Europe, in some places, those are all almost strictly ceremonial, processes. These are not legally binding, in many of the places. There are really only a handful of countries where that would allow a foreign couple to come in and have this sort of like, on the spot ceremony, and have that be a legally binding thing. You still have to go to the courthouse. So
Yeah.
you still have to get that legal process done. So once you kind of remove that component, then I think then people kind of calm down a little bit, and they're like, yeah, you know what, you're right. We'll go to the courthouse. We'll get this done legally. So then that way we at least have this legal, contract between us. So then that way, we are not living with that level of anxiety
Hmm.
about not having that between us. And then down the line, you'll have the celebration, and you can do the walking down the aisle, and you can do the standing in front of the priest or or the friend or whoever else you had in mind.
Yeah.
You could still do the show.
The dances,
You could
like the
still
cake
do the
cutting.
show.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
I agree. And I think, you know, I'm always happy to talk about this with anybody if they have any questions.
Yeah.
But that, as my silver lining self, I think it's actually kind of a cool opportunity to think outside of the box again, and
Yeah.
not in the mason jars way, not in the Pinterest way. This is another
Right.
level of outside the box. And I think it's a really cool time to think about how you can celebrate. But take care of yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like the wedding is about your marriage. So, like, if you want to and do it your own way. Like, look, I'm not even wearing my ring. I don't wear my ring in the house. My husband has never worn his ring. It's just everybody gets to be who they are. Find out who you want to be as a couple, and then work from there and move forward.
Yeah, exactly. Just make it personal. Make it personal and go from there.
Yeah.
100%. Exactly. So now, Sarah, we are coming on, like, we're now at the 1 hour mark. I wanted to be respectful of your time. Um, and I wanted to be, of course, respectful of everybody else's time out there as well. So I wanted to throw this, like, my final interview question. It's like the way that I've always wanted, like, I want to wrap all my interviews. So the question is, everything opens up and you can go wherever you want to go and eat whatever you want to eat. Where are you going and what are you eating?
Does this include traveling?
It can. It can be anywhere, really.
Um, Spain, tapas,
Ooh,
and sangria
okay. Love it.
outside.
Perfect. Well, the flights are super cheap, so you could probably do that in a weekend
I know.
these days, and it'll probably be less than a 5-star DC restaurant.
Yeah, true. Sometimes when you order sangria, you get tapas with it. So, um,
Oh, so
yeah,
so that's like a good travel tip. Go book those $50 airline tickets because they're super cheap right now. Get yourself some sangria and then be back on Sunday.
yeah, yep. I will be
Because you,
eating all the prosciutto and charcuterie and things. Um, it will be lovely.
yeah, and it'll be outdoors and it'll be like cafe society, just
Yeah,
watching the people go by.
yes, yes. It's going to be lovely. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. But yeah, well, I look forward to seeing you again live and in person,
Yeah.
because I feel like I haven't seen you in like 1,000 years.
Oh my gosh,
But
I know. And we have an
yeah,
online workshop tomorrow. It's
yeah, that's
online
right. Yep,
visibility. So
yep.
it's about making sure your SEO and everything's up to date. So like if you are a business person, it's free. Like there's literally no reason not to take this workshop. It should be awesome. And you can get to it from districtbliss.com/events. And I hope you'll be there. I don't know if you're available, but um,
Well, I think tomorrow is at like noon, so I
yeah.
think like depending on who I have, but I can always catch it on the replay.
Yes, for sure. Because you're a
Yeah,
member, so you have free
yeah,
access.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Also, we have virtual co-working coming up at the end of the month. So,
Oh, perfect. Okay, I
um,
might try that.
yeah,
It
you
was
should definitely
interesting.
go. It's really fun, and
Yeah,
it feels like you get a little bit of networking, but it doesn't take a lot of time, and then you get to connect with all these rad entrepreneurs that you didn't even know.
nice.
Um, because now we have got people from we have a huge presence in LA. Um,
Yeah.
I know we're at the end of our time, so I won't go.
No, no, that's all right. It's all good.
But as an aside, I would love for you to come to that because I think it would be a really cool. I think you would really like it.
Yeah, it's gonna be really really interesting. Like I said, you have for anybody out there watching, make sure you go to just districtbliss.com, because she has just a ton of amazing content, and workshops and different networking opportunities. So there's no reason. So just put the hair in the bun, throw some lipstick on, and get in front of that camera.
Yes, and be on camera when you're doing this
Yeah,
stuff. it's really important to still feel like you're connecting. It's important for our mental health. And whatever, like I'm wearing a drapey sweatshirt
It's all
and
good.
yoga
It's fine.
gear, like, and it's fine, like
Some
whatever.
days I make the effort. Sometimes I'm like, bleh. But but that's the world we're living in.
Yes.
So
Yeah. You got to do what's best for you. Just keep
exactly,
doing what's best for you.
exactly. All right. Well, if you see Clouseau, like give him my love.
I will.
Big hug for big boy over there. And it was so great to see you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's always so fun to talk
Yeah.
to you. You know, we could talk for a million years.
We could keep this going. We could
Oh
really
my
keep
God.
this going for like another solid hour.
Oh, at
But
least.
but then I know we'll get to the end of that and we'll be like, oh, that was really long. That was that's a
Now I
lot for
need a
people
nap and I'm
to.
not getting anything else done today.
Right. That might be just a little bit long for people to sit through. But it's
Yeah,
okay.
stand up and walk around, people. Take a break for lunch and we'll meet
Exactly.
back in an hour.
Right. We'll regroup later. It's all good.
Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you so much for
Oh
having
my
me
goodness.
here.
Yes, thank you so much. And I will see you soon.
Yes.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.